But it gets more interesting because we go to the Battle of the Death Valleys with LSU going to what some may call the fake Death Valley. I'll let you decide which is which. But LSU going to Clemson, going to take on the Tigers, the Battle of the Tigers as well, I guess. So you've got a really fun primetime matchup here with a Clemson team that took a step forward last season, expects to take another step forward again this season. With Cade Klubnik getting his kind of groove on last year, he was able to really step into that role as the Clemson quarterback and starting to live up to the expectations there. And then, of course, Dabo Swinney finally diving into the transfer portal a little bit this past offseason, being able to build up that program and trying to build some confidence going into the season, where LSU really is kind of on the same boat here. Now they're trying to end a let's see, I believe it's the last 5 years in their opening game that they have lost the opening game for LSU. So it's not a great record for them going into week 1, but they've got a lot of expectations, high expectations, bringing in guys like Nick Anderson from Oklahoma. I haven't heard his health and what he's expected there, but if he's healthy, Oklahoma fans know what he's capable of. I think Texas fans could tell you the same thing. You look at what they've got there. They've got I'm drawing a blank now. Who's the wide receiver that they pulled in from Kentucky?
Barian Brown.
I could remember Brown. I couldn't remember his first name. But Garrett Nussmeier, one of the most veteran quarterbacks in the league and really in all of college football coming into this season. Very high expectations for him going into the season. Brian Kelly trying to show that he's not just going to get LSU to the point and then drop the ball. He's got a lot to prove this season as well. And one of the biggest ways that he can prove that to the school, to the fan base, to the rest of college football is by winning this week 1 matchup, this big time matchup against Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. They're at home. What do you have here in this game? What stands out to you with the Battle of the Death Valley Tigers?
This is a really fun matchup for sure. And the big thing that's going to stand out for me is LSU's revamped offensive line against Clemson's defensive line. Clemson up front, Peter Woods, TJ Stamps, and all the guys there. This is a classic Clemson defensive line. When a few years back, when your head coach was their DC, and we could count on every single year, and they were making that run, Clemson was churning out the big-time defensive linemen. And I feel like they slipped a little bit from that. Those guys are studs this year. And LSU, it's 4 new offensive linemen. I believe it's 4 guys that got drafted into the NFL. And that does concern me, quite a bit for LSU's ability here. And I'm on the Nuss bus. I think I'm high on Garrett Nussmeier. I think what he's able to do as a processor at the position really stands out, and just being a guy who can read a defense and understand where the ball has to go and control things pre and post snap, which you don't see a ton of at the college level, where it's a lot of scheming stuff open and creating easy looks for guys. He has a lot on his plate and he handles it well. And he's got receivers, like you mentioned, that he can get the ball to, and be successful. But he's also not the most mobile guy. And if that offensive line is going to give them problems in week 1, like that would worry me against Clemson. So that's a big matchup. LSU, if their offensive line holds up and gives Nuss time, like that would be like the big thing for me, where I know LSU has become a popular pick to win the SEC this offseason. And obviously, most everybody, we're going to make our predictions before the year, but I would buy into that a lot more if I see LSU come out of this game and their offensive line performed well against Clemson's defensive front.
Yeah, and Clemson does have they're historically known for having the big time defensive front guys, and you look at what they've got this year too. No shortage there with guys like T.J. Parker, Peter Woods. I mean, they're a big defensive line. That's where they win games, is in the trenches. They know what it takes, and especially against LSU, they know what they're getting in LSU. They know that they're going to have that high-powered offense. Whether Baker's defense can really show up and play with some confidence. Had a huge step forward in, I guess it would be his year 2, right? And then, going into his year 3 now. And so, can they take another step forward and show another big improvement with what really, to me, again, as an Oklahoma fan, looking back at Brent Venables, his first year with Oklahoma, the defense seemed like, hey, we've actually got something going here. It's just guys aren't familiar with what they're doing and with all this scheme. Year 2, wow, that was a big step forward. Year 3 last year, you saw an Oklahoma defense that doesn't get enough love because the offense didn't help them out at all. But it was a great defense last year for Oklahoma, and I'm seeing something very similar. I don't know quite to that extent, but with Blake Baker and what he's able to do there at LSU. So if they can step up and slow Cade Klubnik down, this is going to be a fun quarterback battle too, really. When you think of Garrett Nussmeier, Cade Klubnik, two guys that both of them, let's see, Garrett Nussmeier over 4,000 yards last year, just barely, and Cade Klubnik knocking on the door of 4,000 yards. And so both these guys had a phenomenal season last year. Both these teams pushed themselves very far and progressed. I don't think either of them really showed out the way that they would have liked to, specifically closing it out down the stretch. And for Clemson, it's usually that game one. That game one, for LSU, it's that game one. Can they get over the hump and win that game one? I think this is going to be really fun. And like you said, I think kind of that O line against D line, I think that's another big time matchup that you brought up. That's going to be very fun. It's going to be a fast, physical, very spread out game, and very tough one for me to pick.
Yeah, and you talk about LSU's defense improving under Blake Baker. I know there's high expectations for that group this year, and they went portal heavy with some of the guys they brought in along the defensive line and the secondary as well. Whit Weeks back at linebacker. Obviously, all the questions in the world are what are we going to see from Harold Perkins? I know they've got him playing in that nickel role this year, which I know this has been a topic of discussion. Him in coverage against Clemson wide receivers, how is that going to work out? Because the guy kind of has one trick, which is pass rushing, but they can't only put him in that role. So, what is that going to look like against a team like Clemson that can spread you out and throw the football well? Yeah, I mean, this is a really, really fun matchup, and I know we've talked about it a couple times here. I keep going back to that the battle in the trenches with what LSU has to replace up front versus what Clemson has. I think that is going to determine how this game plays out.
Yeah, and a very tough one. I think, let's see, last I checked, I know Clemson was a favorite. I don't have it down. I think favored by 4 points. So, it's a game very close. I'll start us off with the predictions here. I'm going to end the SEC bias streak here, and I'm going to go Clemson for week one. It rings in my brain too much to remember that LSU has their struggles in week one, but I really do. I mean, as high as I am for LSU, I think LSU could go out and win the SEC this year. I really am high on LSU, but I'm really high on Clemson in the same regards. And it's at home. They've got so much to prove. They lost to an SEC team to end the season last year. They want to turn that around, get themselves started on the right track for this upcoming season, where I think they can really make a big jump forward. And with Cade Klubnik and the weapons around him, I think they're able to kind of expose that LSU defense just enough to where they come down the stretch. And I think it's going to be, again, another one of those tight games down to the last drive. And I think Clemson comes away with it in one of those games that you're going to remember throughout the season. And Clemson's going to kind of have a little bit of a coming out party and expressing and showing how good they have become here now going into the 2025 season. So I'm going to take Clemson, very close one. LSU might cover the spread, but I think it's going to be a very close game. Clemson comes out on top very late in the game.
I'm right there with you. And it's the thing I've talked about repeatedly. I do think week one of the season, LSU breaking in a new offensive line, even for all the confidence I have in Nuss, if there is a quarterback that I would trust to find a way to make it happen through the passing game without great pass protection up in front of him, despite not being able to run much, it is Nussmeier, especially with the receivers they have. But I just think that's going to be a little bit too much for LSU to deal with, especially playing on the road. And even on the other side of the ball, I do think LSU's defense, while it should be improved, it's a lot of transfers who have to step in and perform well. And Clemson, with as veteran as they are offensively, this should be one of their better offensive lines they've had. Veteran quarterback, veteran group of receivers. I'm going to take the more experienced team in week one of the season playing at home. So, yeah, I've got Clemson as well.
I like it. Finally breaking that SEC streak a little bit.